Hello, good morning, everybody. Back with us, Tima Buku and me, Ari Wijayanti. Now we are a bit different in the different schema because we are gonna guide you through a book called Netflix, called No Rules, Rules Netflix and the Culture of Reinvention. But we are gonna do it in English because now we have our special guest. And first of all, I would like to introduce you to our guest. Hello, Ranco Kraaijenbrink. So, Ranco is the CEO of Ekipa. Ekipa is an Indonesian agile consultancy company. Ranco has experience as an agile transformation coach for more than 10 years. Correct me if I'm wrong. He helps business leaders to achieve their business goals in the digital age. Hello, Ranco. How are you doing?
Selamat pagi. So bisa bahasa Indonesia ya? Enggak.
Oh yeah, really?
Ini gado-gado. Tapi presentasi saya bahasa Inggris ya. Saya malu sekali untuk bahasa Indonesia aja.
Okay, but how long have you been living in Indonesia, by the way?
Saya pindah ke Indonesia 2013 sama anaknya 2 dan 1 istri, 4 koper. Dan tempat pertama Bandung. 4 tahun.
Nice.
4 tahun di Bandung dan 2017 pindah ke Salatiga, Jawa Tengah, dekat Semarang.
Oh, wow.
So, sekarang saya di gunung-gunung, tapi enak sekali.
Because one of our friend Weda is living in Wonosobo right now.
Yeah, I guess I'm the nearest to you.
Yeah, you should come over for coffee. Let's meet somewhere.
Yeah, I'll come to Salatiga maybe sometimes. Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, maybe I will join you as well from Malang.
Oh ya, dekat kali pakai tol sekarang ya.
Ya, pakai tol dekat. Okay, and Ranco, can you tell a bit about yourself? Like, how can you end up here in Indonesia, like from your career in the Netherlands, and then now you are an agile coach and also CEO of Ekipa. How was that?
Yeah, so in 2012, so my wife is Indonesian, so she studied in Salatiga in UKSW, English literature, and then she got the opportunity to do the study as DUA, her master in Leiden for English and American literature. And so we met in the Netherlands, we got married. I think 8 years in our marriage, I think every year we came back from our trip to Indonesia, we were asking ourselves, what are we doing in this beautiful corporate environment where we didn't feel like we can add a lot of value? And so in 2012, my wife stopped working for the Rabobank International. And then, in that year, it went really fast because we had 2 kids and we said, okay, if we don't move now, we will never move. So the kids were still really small, 3 and 4. And if I look at the picture, I was like, I'm still looking at this. Wow, you were a daredevil. These little kids, you took them to the other side of the world. But to be honest, it's the best thing I ever did in my life. And I think sometimes I should have done it earlier. One of the main things that I always desire, and my wife as well, is that we want to impact people. And I learned a lot in the Netherlands. And when I started working, I told my dad and said, hey, is this life? It's all about money. It's about shareholders. It's about profit. And where's the human part of the whole conversation? It's not there. So my dad said, okay, if you want to do something impactful and you want to go, for example, to my born country, Colombia, or go to Indonesia, make sure you have some experience and you can share something. So I stick with the corporate about 10 years. So I listened really well to my dad, got some good experiences there. And then my wife and I decided to take the leap of faith and move to Indonesia, to the unknown. We didn't have a job lined up. I started my business and I learned a lot and I failed. My wife started working in the education and there we are. So in 2017, we moved to Salatiga, and that was for me a new start, because in Bandung, 4 years, I built my friends and my network, and I did some work with Bank Budi Sodara on business development and business English. I worked with the universities, with ITB, on the entrepreneurship program. But when I went to Salatiga, everything stops. So I said, okay, I can restart my approach. So I started learning Bahasa. It's still dialect, but I started taking classes on Bahasa. And I reached out to my network, LinkedIn. And that's how I came across Hugo Messer, the founder of Ekipa, through a common friend that we had. And we started talking, and there was a good match. We started working together on different things. And in 2018, September, I joined Ekipa for a big assignment in Prudential, and that's how we started our journey.
Oh wow, it's quite a journey, yeah.
It is.
I think like you reinvent, like Netflix, you reinvent your life many times, right? Can I say that?
I can relate to that, because I think it's easy to stay in your comfort zone, and I'm really passionate about helping people to change the way we work and become more creative in the workspace, more innovative, and create places that we love to work, instead of that we say, okay, we only working here since we have to pay the bill. I think we need to change our paradigm on that.
Right. So are you now working remotely for Ekipa?
Yeah, so we don't have offices. We never had.
Nice.
We never will. We have a virtual office for our document, for our license, SHUP and stuff like that. But so our team helps organizations, mainly corporate organizations, bank, insurance, energy, telecom, pharmacy, to help them, support them on the transformation to become more agile. And that can be a digital transformation, that can be an organization transformation, but most of the time it is really helping them to start practicing agile way of working. So sometimes if we work with IT teams, they work with the Scrum framework, or with non-IT with Kanban, or a mix of both. And we train them to have, first of all, common language in the organization, and then secondly, how to apply it and how to articulate it in that particular situation, because there's no one size fits all. And so that's mainly what we do. So we have a group of about 10 coaches with different backgrounds, different expertise, that works on the client side, and currently everything is remotely, and work on Ekipa stuff if they're not working for the client. So before Corona, we said, okay, we work on site with the client, or we work from home for Ekipa. And currently it's everything work from home, right?
Yeah. Currently we are all now forced to work from home and work remotely, and we have to make it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now we are going to go directly to the book. So this book called No Rules, Netflix, and the Culture of Reinvention by Reed Hastings, the CEO of Netflix, and also Erin Meyer, the bestseller author, and also a professor at INSEAD Business School France. Yeah. So this book is published by the Penguin Press on September 8, 2020. So it's quite a new book. And Ranco, I would like to ask you a question, because you have already read the book. So from the cover, from the title, No Rules, is it okay that if I assume that Netflix has no rules in the company? Like, is it that radical?
To be honest, they have some rules, but they're really limited. So no rules. It's more like they go to the other extreme, right? The traditional organizations say, okay, we need to have more rules to make sure that people do what we think they should do, to have command and control. In Netflix, they say we hire the best people and they can decide how to do their work at best. And of course, I think within certain departments, And that's what I love about the book. They end the last chapter is really to contextualize this paradigm on no rules. They said it's depending. If it's a life safety thing that needs to have rules, you cannot live without rules, right? But if it's not life-threatening or you don't put any customer in danger, you can easily demolish some of the rules or go to no rules at all over time. So it's really contextual. It's not that they say black and white, everybody should go with no rules. Because if a firefighter don't have any rules, then maybe the fire will not be finished, right?
Yeah, of course.
Or if in the medical world, the operation just go on the flow, like I'm the medicine and we don't have rules on hygiene or in restaurants or how to operate people, then some things will not be good. So I think the last chapter is really, I think that's my favorite chapter, where they put everything into a context. And they say, okay, we can live in most of the departments without no rules. The interesting fact is that, so I start reading this book because Hugo Messer, our founder, start quoting in our Slack a lot about this book. And I say, hey, what book is it? And why are you so passionate about this? So I start reading it as well, alongside. And one thing that both of us observe, they still have a hierarchy in Netflix. So they have no rules, but they still have some layers to operate. And that makes it really interesting for me. Does that answer your question, Ari?
A bit, but we're gonna deep dive into the book anyway, right? So, so for the audience, we will share a Jamboard link. Kamega, have you already shared the Jamboard link? And then maybe we can share screen. Okay. Yeah, it's. Can you all see the screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Yeah. And for the second page, so we're gonna make this discussion more interactive, right? So we have this. It looks like Kanban board. So yeah. So we have three lists, which are learning backlog, to do, and done. Ranco, maybe can you explain a bit about this?
Yeah, so the idea is that before I start my sharing about the book, is that I want you to come up with some observations or questions that you got by reading the book, or maybe the summary, or you watched a summary video about how Netflix is operating. Because I think that guides me and guide us a little bit more into the discussions that are relevant for you guys. So let's take, do we have a timekeeper? Maybe we take 3 minutes. Maybe not everybody is familiar, but on the left side, you see the panel. Below the arrow, you can click and you can create your own post-it and then write down your observation or question that you like to discuss. So let's take 3 minutes, first of all, and then while I'm talking, if you have any other thing that comes up, please share it on this second Jamboard. So we can, at the end, I will go back here and see if we have some questions left or new questions coming in. So let's take 3 minutes to see what kind of questions the audience have before we start diving in my 5 to 10 minutes introduction of the book. Is that okay?
Yeah, okay. Let's go, guys. Put all your question and curiosity in the Jamboard.
And all questions allowed, guys. So that can be anything that you came across, maybe based on the title, based on anything that you have.
Yeah, you can also ask in Indonesian, right?
Yeah, bahasa Indonesia bisa.
Oh, we have one already.
And if possible, if you're brave enough, please put your name there, so it's easy for me to ask maybe some follow-up questions or get some clarification.
Yeah, please put your name there, and we will unmute you when your question being discussed. Ranco, maybe while we are filling the Jamboard, can you maybe tell us more about the book? Like, what is your first impression from the cover or from the start of you reading the book? But has it changed or has it met your expectation? Maybe.
It's yeah. So from the cover of the book, so like I said, I was quite inspired by Hugo Messer, who started reading this book and got me reading into this. To be honest, I'm still reading the Reinvent organization from Lalou. It was on my reading list, and I postponed it for a while back then, but I started finally reading it. And to be honest, I think No Rules Rules, Netflix reinvention of culture. I think it's more accessible for me. It's less academic. And what I love about the No Rules Rules book from Netflix is Erin Meyer. She's a great author of the Culture Map book and brings some discussions into the book that is fresh, but it's really helping to understand, and with her examples from her own practices as a professor, but also doing her research, it's really giving you a complete picture of the organization of Netflix, but also how it's connected to culture and behavior and stuff like that. What I really like about the book itself is it is full of nice examples, so it's not really hard to digest. So it's really a storytelling, easy read book. So I would really encourage you to read it. It's quite accessible. So that's my first point. The second thing is that, like I said, I think that the last chapter, the final chapter, they put everything into perspective. And I think that is a really great job, because there is no one size fits all. And it's almost like the big end note and say, okay, this is how we do it in Netflix. But that doesn't mean that if you just follow the 3 steps that you will be successful, or that it will work in your country or your culture of your organization.
Okay. So can we jump into one question here already?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's from Andre, Indonesia. Do you think Reed Hastings' methodologies in leadership can be adapted by companies in Indonesia or maybe in the Netherlands?
I'm sure it can, because the way they operate is something that we all looking for as humans, because it's more they put the human more in the center of their organization instead of people. So they have really the agile principle, people over processes, right? So I really think it's a big step for a lot of companies, whether it's in the Netherlands or in Indonesia, to move away from command and control and to let go some of the comfort zone that we are currently in a system that we feel like, hey, we are able to produce better if we have more control over the people that work with us. While Reed Hastings is also saying in one of his interviews that focusing on efficiency and effectiveness doesn't really stimulate us to be creative. Efficiency is coming from a lot of rules and regulations and fine-tuning stuff, but it really stops us to be creative. So I'm surely a strong believer that wherever you are, whatever industry you are, even if you are in the financial industry in Indonesia, we're dealing with OJK, it's more like that your whole approach is different, how you manage people or how you organize yourself. What is your way of working?
Yeah, but
does that make sense, Andre?
Andre, maybe you can say something. But Ranko, but as I heard about the no rules at Netflix from Reed Hastings, some of Reed Hastings interviews, I think it's about it's a bit ruthless. What do you think?
Oh yeah. So I didn't say that I agree with all the practices, to be honest. So one of the discussions that we had in the team is, for example, if you feel like people are underperforming, or if you want to hire a star player that is maybe more expensive, would you lay off other people? I like the idea that they said we are a professional sports team aiming to win the Champions League, right? And therefore we need the best players. But the philosophy to change people because they are not really performing well for someone that performs really well, I think, to me, at this point of time, is a little bit harsh and too far away from how I would treat people. I agree we need to focus more on outcomes rather than how much time we spend on in the office or on our work. And we need to have a more in-depth conversation on how do you contribute and how do you impact our organization or the clients that we work with. I think that's a really healthy, good conversation rather than the conversation, oh, you did 8 hours or 10 hours, so you are a good employee. So, for example, my 10 years in the Netherlands being in the corporate, the people that get promoted were the people that makes a lot of hours and didn't necessarily do a good job on their departments.
Yeah, right.
I don't agree with all the practices, but most of it sounds really good. I think it's good to disagree as well.
Okay, what do you think, guys? Come on, speak up. Andri, Indonesia, maybe you can.
Bisa bahasa Indonesia, Andri. And UKSW students, I didn't see any question from you, so come up. Savanya?
Okay, maybe we can move on to the next question.
So what we also can do, is it okay that I just give a short intro on the next slide on the book,
course,
and then meanwhile people can think about a little bit more about the questions. Andre, thank you for the question. It was a really good question. So what is the structure of the book? So they had a 3-step model. So the main question they started is regarding innovation. So how can we change a culture and an organization to become more innovative, right? And what do we need to get there? So they structured the book in three big blocks. Build up the talent density. That's one of the first things. The second one is look to increase candor, so openness. And the third step is find ways to remove controls. And this is how the book is structured. This is how they structured the conversations with the interviews with Reed Hastings and the add-ons from Aaron Meyer. So if we go to the next tab, let's dive in a little bit into the overview, where we can see what they suggest. So they said, if you want to follow a certain pattern, this is what we suggest. So in the first step, so it's really about freedom and responsibility, and that's I think it's really interesting why they make it really important and how it's related. So step one, they say, okay, build a workplace of stunning colleagues. So find the best people out there. One of the reasoning that they have for that is that if you play in a team with really professional people and smart people, the quality of work and the conversations are much more easier and flowing around better than if you don't have it. The second part in the first step is let people say what they really think. And I think this is cultural. Living now for almost 8 years in Indonesia, a big step. Looking at the upbringing, the way people are wired, it's a big step. But later on, more about that. But even for Western cultures, it's not really common to speak up. And it depends on the culture in your company as well. And then the third one, removing controls. And for example, they do the vacation and expense. They took it as one of the big examples. Removing controls is a big thing, guys. It's so unnatural if you are in a corporate setting to say, okay, let's not add more controls and rules, but remove controls. That's almost counterintuitive if you've been for a long time in the corporate. So that's step number one, langkah satu. And then you go to the next step of going into a culture of freedom and responsibility, where they say, make sure you pay your star performance top dollars. Really interesting. I will go a little bit deeper in the next step, but that's a really interesting thing where they flip the conversation from, okay, we have a ladder based on performances and et cetera, that you get your raise. And they said, you are responsible for what your value is in the market and to inform us on what is happening and what is, for example, as a developer or as an HR professional, what is the current market value that you have out there? How much is another company willing to pay for your services? And if you keep it secretly, nobody can act upon it. But if you open a conversation with us and share it in a database and share that you have this kind of conversations and share it with your managers or with your leadership, then it's up to them to act, right? They can say, hey, we see that your value in the market is, your role is quite in demand, so your value is going up. So we need to do something. We need to act on that. The second point in langkah dua is open the books. Be transparent. And I know it's a big step. Later more about it. And the third block is make it so no approval required. So removing controls, the next step is that people just do what is in the interest of the company without asking permission or a signature. I've been in many client sites that I work with senior leaders, executive. They still get bombarded with all kinds of signatures and mostly internal. It's not even required by the government, but mostly it's internal to keep the command and control system alive. And then in the third step, technique of reinforce culture of freedom and responsibility is live by the keeper test. This is a really interesting one. So the conversation is we as employee, but also in the leadership role, we should ask each other, if I leave tomorrow, would you fight for me? Would you do anything to keep me in the company? And I think this is such an interesting question. Next one is max your candor using feedback circles. So make sure that there is a feedback cycle, that you have a 360-degree review, that you have this conversation to become a better version of yourself. So not only in the first step where they say, let people say what they really think, but also organize review and appraisals in a way that it's more structured. So at the end of the year, people would know, or during the year, they know how the performances are valued by others. And then third one, lead with context and not controls. So this is also another approach that they say, we hire you to do something. For example, do the marketing for us. And we hire you because you have certain expertise. So it's your decision to move left or right, or to invest or to withdraw something. And it's based on your expertise and your conversations. And it doesn't mean that you have to do the decision yourself. You can ask other team members or other departments or other leaders to fill in maybe, or to give you some feedback on possible options that you are considering. So this is really the structure of the book in a nutshell. Let's go to the next slide. Slide number 5. Oh, sorry. Yeah, So let's go a little bit deeper in slide number 5. Is that okay? Yeah, this one. So let's take a little more closer look on the first one, build a workplace with stunning colleagues. So what they say, we are a professional team that want to win the champion in our league of creating content, right? It's the content creating business. And we are only looking for the best players. So that doesn't mean that they are only looking for the star players. So for example, in sport, we have the Chicago Bulls with back then Michael Jordan. And we know what happened when Michael Jordan left the Chicago Bulls, the whole team collapsed. So that is not what they meant by stunning colleagues. They meant that you are really good at what you are doing. So in your field of expertise, you're one of the best. You are a stunning colleague that can deliver high quality. So if you have a group of people that are like-minded in the same level, it's easy to navigate and to keep each other sharp, right? So that's one thing that I think it's something that we need to think as well. If we feel like in our team we're missing some qualities or some competence or some skills, find the best one in the market that is helping you to move to the next level. And don't settle for, let's try. For example, I do a lot of interviews for our company, Ekipa. And I hear a lot of interviewers saying, oh yeah, I want to try or I want to learn. And what I've learned over the last couple of years is that is not what we need. We need people that are confident in saying, hey, I'm an agile coach and my expertise is in more technical or in HR or in marketing, but I understand what I'm doing and I'm really good at it. Instead of, and of course, there's a lot more to learn and to improve, but this is my expertise. This is my field of expertise that I feel really grounded and confident. So that kind of people, that is what we're looking for. We're not a playground anymore to learn and see if it's working, yes or no. No, we're looking for professionals that are confident and say, okay, you can wake me up in the middle of the night and ask me anything about my expertise in testing or marketing or whatever it is. The second one is let people say what they really think. And that's something that I think in our culture in Indonesia, I say our because I feel almost at home here, is that it's not something that we learn at school. It's not something that we learn in our families. It's not something that is encouraged in the workplace. So in a lot of companies that we work with as Ekipa, we see there is a lot of fear to speak up and to say what you think and ask what you need. And one thing that is really missing is the feedback culture. How do we give feedback? How do we receive feedback? And how do we act upon it? And what is the intent of feedback, right? So one thing that I've learned is that knowing it's far away from where we culturally are, it's something that we really need to embrace, and it can really help you to highlight your blind spots. If people in your team or even your clients or in your organization never mention that a certain habit or a certain behavior is distractive or is destructive maybe, or is not really helping them, then how can you become a better version of yourself? How can you become better at your profession, right? So I really love the notion and the elaboration they do on the feedback culture with the 4A aim, with intent, and it needs to be actionable. That's the two: aim to assist, and it needs to be actionable for the people that give feedback, and then accept. And the other one is, let me see, appreciate and accept. So that's for the receiver side. And I think this is such a simple framework, and there are many others, but this one is quite simple. Aim to assist is really the intention that you want to help the other to become better, right? I got feedback from the founder. Say, hey, Ranco, during this session last time, if you reduce your words with 25 until 25%, people are more engaged. So this is something that I got feedback from the founder that, hey, Ranco, if you talk less, your story will be more powerful. And that is something that I need, because if I don't hear this kind of feedback, I will continue rabbling on during meetings, which is not helping any of us. So feedback and really say what you really think, I think it's really a game changer. The third one, begin removing controls. For example, vacation and expense. I think the philosophy they explain in the book is that we don't babysit our employees, right? They know when they can take a day off or when they can take a week or a few weeks off. And we know that holidays and breaks helps us to just download all the information and become more creative. Because even if people maybe say, okay, I will take a week off, it doesn't mean that their brain is not thinking about their work. It creates space. And I like the notion, for example, in Ekipa, we say, okay, you have unlimited holidays. You can take up any days, because we are not focusing on the hours that you put in there, but we are focusing on the impact that you have for our clients and for our company. So unlimited holidays gives ownership to the people themselves and say, hey, if I'm in finance, yeah, one of the examples they highlight in the book, in that context, the first 10 days of the new month, I cannot take my leave because they need me. But maybe in the middle of the month, it's okay to take a week or a couple of days off. So put it in the context that people can make this call by themselves, or as a team, you can make the context and say, okay, those are the limitations that we have as a finance team. We don't do it at the first 5 or 10 days of the month, or in the closing, the last week of the month. So in the middle, you're free to pick up any days that you want to take a break. Also with expenses, the simple rule that they have, spend it in the interest of Netflix, it really changed the paradigm, right? It's not being frugal, but it's being notionable about, if I buy this new laptop, does it help me to do a better job? Or if I invest as a company, if I choose to go to this hotel, is that really appropriate? So one of the things that I got out of the book is, in terms of expenses, if you wake up in the middle of the night and they ask you to give an explanation why you purchased this new laptop or this new handphone, or why you flew first class, and if you can explain that without any hesitation, then they are okay. But if not, if you fly, for example, in the US, they fly a lot from state to state, right? Like in Indonesia. If you flew, for example, first class without any good reason, then it's out. But if you flew first class because that saves time, and the next day you had a presentation early, that makes sense, right? So you flew first class for a 4 or 5 hour flight, because then you could take some rest, and as soon as you landed, you had only 1 or 2 hours to prepare your presentation. It makes sense to do that investment and to justify your expense. So I think that is about the first 3 things they highlight in the book. Let's go to the next 3 things. Sorry, can you go to the previous? Let me see. Okay, yeah. Okay, I think I missed something out here. Okay.
Yeah, I think the second one is
yeah, let's go to the 4th slide. Then I will do the second first.
This one?
Yeah, no, the previous, that one. So I forgot to take this out. So the second step, they say, okay, make sure you pay your star performance top dollar. And so they flip the conversation. Like I said, it's our responsibility to make sure that we know what we're worth, first of all. Second, they encourage you to take up the phone and go for interviews, not secretly, but openly, and tell your leadership and say, hey guys, I was approached by this company for the same role. I will go for the interview with the aim to understand what is the value, what is the salary that they want to pay for me. And then we can put it in the system and have the conversation with the leadership and say, hey, they're offering me 10 or 20% more. So that means that my market value is going up because I'm in demand, for example. Instead of that you're waiting for your annual raise, they said it's just the market, right? It doesn't make sense that you say, hey, out there I can get 20 or 30% more salary, but I stick here, or I will secretly consider to move out. They encourage people to be transparent and open about this thing, so they, as a leadership, can take action and say, hey, we really want you in this team. And or that they say, yeah, maybe it's a good time to leave. Open the books. Number 2 is transparency. So in Ekipa, we have everything open. And talking to my friends in Indonesia, business friends, they say, Ranco, you guys are crazy. You are opening everything. Salaries are, so we have our P&L sheet in the Google Drive. Everybody can see everything. And one of the things is that we want people to become more part of how we run the business and in the decisions that we make, not based on feelings, but also on facts and figures. And how can you do that if you don't know anything about how our financials are? And in Netflix, they are stock registered, right? So they are in Wall Street. So a month before they share their quarterly results, they have the conversation with the top 500 people. And before the meeting start, they said, if anything is shared, you go to jail. That's the only thing that they said. And then they share everything, what is not shared with the market so far, with the top 500 leaders in their organization. And they say, yeah, there's a risk that there are people within this cohort that maybe leak something. And we will not stop because of this one person. We will find this person will exit, and we will learn from it. So one of the things that they do really well is say, okay, if there's something not working out in terms of expenses, or in terms of open the books and people share before the market, it's shared officially with the market, we will not put more controls and more regulations there. No, we will just highlight what went wrong and how it went wrong and what we learned from it, rather than putting more controls. So they are really a learning organization if we talk about learning from maybe mistakes that people make, or wrong judgments in terms of expenses or sharing confidential information. Number 3 is make it so no approval required. Because one thing that they already say, right? Stunning colleagues, they get really good salary without performances to hold a carrot in front of them and say, oh, if you do this, then you get this. They said, we pay you a fixed amount. There is no no commission. There's no additional money that you can make. We pay you a good salary, so you have to perform really well. And we don't want to babysit you. We know that you can make the decision with your team. You can share. You can, for example, in Ekipa, we encourage people to make a yesable proposal and share it with the team and say, hey, We like to engage with this vendor. These are the reasoning. These are the numbers. Any thoughts about this? Or we want to go left or right, just to have a more broader conversation. But that still comes down to the person in charge to make the decision, to make the bet. And I think the idea that they have to make bet and experiment and say, okay, we are not always sure if something will work out, but we create an environment where people are able to make this call. So no approval required means that people are able to fix stuff fast. So they have an example for one of the team member discovered that one of the big TVs where high definition was not working. So he just went to the store and buy this 2,000-3,000 worth HD TV screen to make sure that the client or the partner that comes in could show his materials there. And I think the notion is that we believe that people can make this call by themselves and move faster if they don't ask any approval, but just act in the interest of your company. Going to the third one, keeper test. I love it. Asking your peers. So you can go to the last part, the sixth. Yeah, if you can go to number 6. Yeah. Jamboard number 6. Can you go there? The previous one. So the keeper test is a really interesting one. Asking, okay, what would you do if I leave? Would you fight for me? Would you do a lot of work to keep me in the company? And I think it's similar to the NPS score. Would you recommend this person or this product to someone else? And I think it's a really good question that we need to ask ourselves, ask our teammates, to make sure that we, on a regular basis, that we find out, hey, are we still doing what they expect if we talk in terms of our stakeholders, our leadership, but also in our teammates. Are they still happy with what we contribute to the team? The second point is going a next level on 360 degrees. So they have speed dating reviews, but also what I really love about the book, and you should read about it, is the dinner review, where people just sit over a nice dinner in a small team and give feedback on what you should start, what you should stop, and what you should continue. And it's not always easy in public to receive this in your team, but it creates, if you are mature enough, an environment that we can speak up. And one thing that I read in the book that is really cool is that they said, if people are giving on a wrong way feedback, we call them out and say, hey, this is not about the person, it's about the behavior that we want to address. And I think if you test drive this in your team and your team is ready, mature enough to do it, this is really the next level. That's why it's the third stage on giving feedback, but also reviewing performances and giving people constructive way of, hey, this is something that you should start doing. This is something that I think you should stop doing. And this is something that you need to continue doing. And then the third one is lead with context and not controls. So the context is always different, right? And like they stimulate the leaders and the people in the team to take bets. And whether your leadership maybe is not always on the same page with you, they still encourage you to do it and learn from it. It's like in a casino, you get the chips and you just make a bet. But you can be an informed leader, right? You can be the one that say, okay, I talk to different stakeholders and people that are knowledgeable to fine tune my decision making to put my money or my bet on X, Y, Z. So I think the whole thing is that they keep individual responsibilities, but within the context. So you can ask for advice, you can ask for inputs, but at the end, it's your call. And you are the one, the informed leader that can make the final call and the decision. So it's not the controls, it's the context that gives you the insight, right? And also, like we said in the first one, if you're in the finance department and you want to take up your leaves in the beginning when it's the closing of the month, that doesn't make sense. So you need to set the context on, okay, this is where we operate. You need to set the context, not the controls for your organization. Where do you want to be in the next 12 months? And what is the main objective that we have? And what are the key results that we're looking for? And how does that help you to make better decisions? All right, I talked a lot. So let's go to the Jamboard number 2 and see what kind of questions we have there.
All right, we have some question here.
Okay.
Which one first?
Let's start with Ria. Ria, maybe you can unmute and tell us a little bit more about.
Yeah. Hi, Ranco. Hi, everyone.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, morning. Yeah, it's very interesting when you're talking about the openness in the book. Yeah, I've heard on and Netflix they implement about 360 dinner where everyone can gathering in the town hall and everyone can give the feedback to each other team. Yeah, openly. So that's cool. And nowadays, I guess a lot of startup companies following this idea. I don't know who start first about this idea because some of my friends working in the startup and they're talking about this kind of activity. What do you think about this activity? I mean, like everyone can shout out each other about the feedback. Sometimes some people maybe get the feedback and feel irritating. That's true, right? What do you think about this?
Yeah, so so in the book they said, okay, in the third stage, you if you're mature enough, then you can do the dinner, right?
Yeah.
And so that means that in step 1, you need to encourage people to say what they want and ask for what they need, also to the bosses or managers, right? And I think if that's not in place, if they don't feel safe, I talk a lot with executives as well, and it starts with them. If they don't be a role model in asking for feedback or giving feedback, nobody else will follow in this beautiful country. So it start and finish with the leadership. If they don't take holidays publicly and say, hey guys, I take a leave because I need really a 1 week of downtime and off screen, and share what they travel and come back refreshed and with new ideas, nobody will take holidays freely, even if it's in the and if you don't create a culture, and that takes time, if you don't have the role models in the leadership to start giving feedback and receiving and asking for feedback in a safe place, don't go to the dinner. Serious. Because that will ruin. Because if people don't know how to give properly, then you have the jerks that they mention in the book as well, right? The political guys that want to make the next promotion, and in public he will shame you or point you out in a bad way. That's not what they're looking for. And that's the first thing that they said. Aim to get better, right? To help people to become a better version of themselves. It's not your interest, it's not your anger, it's not your emotion, but it's really helping the other to become a better version of themselves. That's first. So if startups adopting this, that's really cool. But I think a lot of companies don't have the ecosystem of giving on a regular basis feedback. Second thing is that feedback needs to be flowed. So you don't wait until the end of the year and collect all the emotions and all the feedback. Just do it on the spot. So we're using Ply for our objective and key results, and they have an amazing feature in the cloud system for one-on-one, but also for feedback and for praises. And that really encouraged me to give it and to do it on a more regular basis. They have nice templates, so I can pick and choose the starting sentence, and I just fill out the blanks. That's it.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you, Ranco.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Ranco,
Okay.
I think if I might to speak from my side, I think I agree with you that it's need to be start from the up to the bottom. So the up need to be have the example. Because if we're talking about the cultures, the work culture, especially in Indonesia, we are more into uh, to please to please our boss, you know.
Boss.
So hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's more like the culture to please our boss. So if the boss doesn't give the example to give the feedback, so the bottom side will be more like worry if they give the impact or speak up, it will be give a bad impact on their career or etc. I think like that.
Yeah. So
Do you agree?
one
Yeah,
one
maybe.
of the
Yeah, that's
one of the things they mention in the book is don't seek to please your boss, and I think that's such a great sentence. I think I want to print it out, because that is so much happening in this beautiful country.
Yeah.
And it's maybe coming from the way we our upbringing, our education. So what I see from the outside as a Dutch cultural guy, what I see is happening here is people in general, they raised up in a family where the parents are quite dominant in their opinions. You study this or that, you have to do this, you have to marry this person, or from this belief or whatever you have guided, but it's quite strongly guided by your parents and family, right? And then you go to school. What I see in the school and degree, it's only the teacher that has a monologue and tells you, okay, this is what you need to memorize to pass the test. That's it. Don't ask questions. Don't have a debate. Don't tell me that it's wrong what I said. Just follow the rules. And then if we go to the workplace, I see a lot of people just coming in and just executing what their bosses are telling them to do. So there's a lot of command and control. So
yeah, Ranko, maybe I can add your sentence because a lot of boss or leader here or the parents here do the micromanage, you know. So they take the whole control of their supervised bottom or their child, their students. They do.
Yeah, so it's interesting to add, if that's okay. So, for example, when I visited Indonesia before I moved here, and I walk with my little girl in the mall and she fall, a lot of people came and me as a parent is like, just get up and keep walking. But here, if a child falls and if I see how they feed the child up until 5-6 years old, spoon feeding, and I understand. I will not, from my parenting perspective, I will not allow my child to play with a knife without guidance or training, because that's dangerous, right? But I will mature. So one thing that my father always said, I want to raise you up to become independent, and that's a different approach than maybe in Indonesian approach to have control and command and control and make sure that you do the right things. So that's different approaches with different consequences.
All right. Okay, Kak Mega and Kak Ria, is it enough for you? The question, the answer from Ranco?
Yeah, it's sounds like a discussion.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to add more?
No, thanks. I think Ranco already explains clear and enough. Thank you.
Okay. Maybe I would like to add more to Ranco, because you said previously about the Dutch culture. I think one thing that I took from Dutch culture is the culture of complaining, because I see Dutch people complains a lot. but it's the way to make a progress, to improve your life, to improve the government, and etc. I think it's the thing that we have to learn in Indonesia.
That's an interesting thought. I think what I love to see is two things: speak up, address an issue or a problem, but not only speak up, also fix it. Because if you only complain, if you only address stuff, that's easy, right? We all can address the issues in this beautiful country, but to take it and fix it, that's a different game.
Yeah, but we have to first encourage people to speak up, right? Because we are here in Indonesia, people are more shy. Yeah, exactly.
You can see it on the Jamboard, right? We have 27 people in here, but we have only 5 sticky notes.
Right. Okay, maybe we can move on to the next question, yeah? From Zevanya. Zevanya, can you maybe elaborate to your question? Maybe unmute Zevanya. Hello, Zevanya.
Zevanya, can you raise your hand?
Okay, I'll just read the question then. Does Netflix strategy strong enough to make them stand out and compete? Okay, Zevanya.
Hello, Tess. Yeah, so I want to ask if the Netflix culture is enough or can help them stand out, because nowadays they have many competitor from Disney Plus. They have also launched their own streaming service from HBO, from Apple. So what kind of how does their culture, how do they do things could help them to stand out from those competitors? Because I think their competitors also have their own culture and their own system. So what makes Netflix unique in this case? That is it from my question.
Thank you, Albert. Great question. You get extra points because I think you're the only one from the group, right? I don't know. What I see, the differences is one thing that Reed Hastings mentioned in the book, but also in the interviews. It's a journey, and one of the interesting things that he mentioned is also the more people, the more smart people we have, the better we are able to create this culture of freedom and responsibility. So it's not something that you easily can copy and paste into your own culture. It's a journey, first of all. Second of all, I think they prove already that they reinvent themselves as a business several times, from the VHS video, DVD to online streaming to create their own content and whatever is coming, because they really stimulate people to, within the context that they're aiming at, to be creative and have the freedom and responsibility to help the company to move to the next level. So I really believe in this large group of people on different countries to move to the next level and help the company to stay relevant for the users, but also be having a competitive edge. So it's really about the people and how they interact and how much freedom they give. Reed Hastings, one of the things that he mentioned, I think House of Cards, was one thing that he didn't believe that it will be a good thing to invest in. And at the end, it was a big success, one of the biggest success they had. And that's really propelled their content creation, in-house production. So even if the CEO is not seeing always or is aligned with the vision, they allow people to take bets and experiment and make maybe majority that we don't see fails, right? Albert, is that
Okay, Zevanya, do you want to add more?
He's still on mute.
Okay, so it's back to the people again, yeah,
Hello.
right?
Yeah,
Hello?
well, there you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, I think it's also because Netflix is in the business of content. So as you mentioned that Reed doesn't really believe in one of their originals, which is House of Cards. So do you think also it's also very important to have open mind, because they're on content creation, and I think it's very in the business of content creation. It's very subjective. I also make music sometimes, and I do think that, well, music is very subjective, but also, yeah, Netflix, I see it's very similar. So do you also think that by having an open mind, it could also help from there to make them stand out?
Yeah, so one thing that Reed Hastings got right is that we can focus so the industrial revolution helps us to think more about how can we increase efficiency, right? How can we improve quality? But those two things doesn't help us to innovate. Innovation is really breaking rules or going into an unknown territory where we have no idea if this will work out. That I think those things is in, if I recall conversation with executives, they say we really want our people in our company to be more innovative, but they don't know how, and sometimes I think there are two kind of people. One kind is really running and executing the business, like Steve Blank is mentioned, right? We need that kind of people that are really good in executing and making the current processes better. And then we need other kind of person that is really innovative. And it's interesting how Netflix brings this under one roof and say, okay, only executing is not enough. You need to drive innovation by spotting new opportunities and get the freedom to do that, to execute. And it's all informed, right? It's not that you go crazy and you bet on something that is not really based on your knowledge or facts that you have at hand. So I think within the context of Netflix, they really encourage people to be free and take responsibility. And that stirs up creativity instead of I just here to fulfill a seat, to execute something and do it maybe a little bit faster because I get an additional bonus.
Okay, thank you, Ranco. Zevanya, do you want to add more or discuss more about this matter?
No, I think that's it from me.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for your participation. Okay, Ranco, maybe we can move on to the next question, yeah? Because the time is already moving as well.
How much time do we have left? So we can...
Maybe we have two questions left here, but the one from Mega is actually, you have already discussed it previously in your slide. It's about the things from the book that you adapt for Ekipa. I think you have already explained it a lot. Maybe we can just move on to the next question from Priscilla. Yeah, Priscilla, can you unmute your...
Yes. Hello.
Yeah.
Hey, Priscilla.
Hi. Thank you for the chance. So, yeah, I had some technical issues, so I missed your conversation in the middle. But at the beginning, you mentioned that within several companies, for example, on the pharmaceutical or medical devices, you cannot just read out the rules. And I confirmed that. But I work also as a technology consultant for pharmaceutical industry. And sometimes we are also doing validation of the system, for example, computer system validation and IT governance. But then in practical, we are required to do this like in agile way, and we have to adapt. And sometimes in the middle of the process itself, I feels like, am I really validating based on the rules or the regulation, or I'm just justifying the things that appear or occurred actually within the clients. So this is very interesting, and you are also share the things that they write in this book is about the way of work. It's about the culture. But I try to find the connection. How could I relate this process of innovation and distinguish it between this is the innovation or it is just an action of justifying the things that it shouldn't be.
Yeah. So I think we still have in a lot of organizations, and we have a lot of controls, right? And we love to see people to operate within that context. And I agree that sometimes it's more like justification than validation, because it's more justification of the leadership. Are we doing the right bet or not? That's what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So to move out there, I really like the feedback culture that they mentioned several times in the book. I think it's something that not only internal should work, but also external if you work with stakeholders. Internal for your personal development, I think it's a great way to develop yourself. But if you have a project or a product, the feedback that you want, the inputs that you want to have need to be honest as well, right? From the user side, from other stakeholders, etc., to make sure that you build something that is relevant and useful, solving a problem, reducing the pain, increasing the gain of the user at the end, right? And it's not justification, it's only validating, hey, is my assumption of the intake, is that correct, yes or no? And I think in the Netflix, they set the context and say, okay, we hire you for digital marketing, for example, or to build a new platform. But it's your task and your responsibility and your freedom to get all the insight that you need to build the best feature or the best marketing campaign that is helping us as Netflix to move to the next level. And that brings a lot of conversation in a different perspective. Where we're coming from in the corporate, we used to say, okay, we take 3 months or more to plan and figure out all the details of the product or the platform or whatever we want to build, and make the budgets and the estimates and the forecast and whatever is needed to get approval. Where Netflix say, okay, of course, you don't go without any information and you place a bet on something that everybody know in advance that will never work, but you collect information, and that's why I like for example, in stimulating people to make a yesable proposal, because that changed the conversation. It's like collecting information from different side of the stakeholders, and to make an informed decision rather than say, okay, I know it all, and I'm the high paid person in the room, so I make this call. While Reed Hastings said, while we're growing, we're getting better in fine-tuning this culture of freedom and responsibility, because first of all, we hire better people, and we have this conversation with all of us. It's not only me that decide we go left or right, but we have this decision on how we operate and how we work. Does that make sense, Priscilla?
Yes.
So one final note before we close. I love the end, and one of the notions that Reed Hastings makes is the analogy with a concert, right? With an orchestra. And he said, leave the conductor and the sheet music behind and build a jazz band instead. And I think that is something that is, for a lot of companies, really new, to go out of the controls and the structures and the procedures, like a traditional orchestra will do with the notes, with the conductor, and do exactly all the expert playing their instrument. They follow the one conductor and the notes on the sheets, right? While Reed Hastings said, let's move into a jazz band. We know that we have experts that can play the different instruments really well. They are the best of the best in the market. And let's create it more on a free flow and let the conductor and the sheet music behind and create a jazz band instead. And I think that's a big challenge, but I love the idea.
Oh, this is very insightful. Yeah, I just now understand that what does it mean by leave the conductor and sheet music behind, because you want to leave the controls, all the controls, just give a context and then let your player play the best. Okay, this is very insightful session. Thank you guys, and of course thank you Ranco for sharing with us this morning, and also thank you for sharing about the content of the book and also your experience as an agile mentor and also as a CEO. Right? Thank you so much. Guys, for the last session, we would like to take a picture together. This is a mandatory session for all webinar in Indonesia, maybe. So can you please
turn on the camera?
Yeah, turn on your camera, your video. And then maybe Mega or Weda will take the picture.
Yeah, I will take the picture.
Come on,
Please
guys.
remove also.
Maybe you can remove the pin as well.
Okay, finally we can see you, all of you guys. Hello.
Yeah, finally we can
After
see you
1.5
all.
hours, only we can see all of you guys. Hopefully, after this, you are more willing to read many books. Yeah.
Yeah. I encourage you all to read more books in different areas, in different topics, and also discuss it with us.
Ayo.
Okay.
Ayo. Okay, Madre.
One more.
Okay, are you ready?
Okay, you ready?
3. 1, 2, 3. Wait, one more. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I get it.
Thank you so much for all the participants this morning. Don't forget to follow our Instagram at Buku and also subscribe our YouTube channel Buku. You can also message us if you want to discuss some books together with us. We are always open. And keep reading and see you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Ranco.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.